So we're delighted now to be joined by Sean O'Depere and Galway under-20 football selector Paddy Moran to look back on Galway's narrow defeat yesterday to Roscommon, which finished on a final scoreline of 9 points each. Just before we do get into it, don't forget that this podcast is now brought to you by Steede Motor Group, Claregalway, for your personalised vehicle shopping experience. Find out more at steedemotorgroup.ie. Paddy, just coming to you first. I mentioned there you've been involved with Galway under 20 footballers this year, involved with Mike Cullen as well, involved with Pearson as well. Like a busy year.
Busy year, yeah, very busy year. 3 teams on the go. Very understanding wife. Thankfully, otherwise I'd be out in the street. Yeah, very busy year. Mike Cullen went, as far as we did to the All-Ireland semi-final. It was unbelievable year to be involved with the team. Winning Connacht, obviously winning the county title was just brilliant, and delighted to see the lads say, it ties in with yesterday. See Neil Mulcahy, Owen Kelly getting their run with Galway. Desi obviously has been there, Peter has been there, Sean, Captain Paul. There's a good few of them involved, but it was great to see kind of the likes of Owen and Neil kind of push on as well. And then with NUIG, obviously, yeah, there's a few more Mike Cullen lads involved there as well. George Avern, who you've probably seen playing for Mike Cullen during the year. He's gone into the senior panel as well, played with NUIG. So it's a good crossover between the 3 teams. But yeah, it was disappointing to lose to UL after extra time. It was it's a pity. Just didn't get going in extra time. We just didn't get over the line, Unfortunate to lose in your home patch, but just left the one team now to go under 20. So yeah, just happy to be down to one team now as opposed to 3. There's a lot of work as well. Obviously, I have a job and kids. So yeah, it's been a hectic year. It's been a hectic 13, 14 months. But yeah, delighted to kind of still be involved with the team. But yeah, it's been a long and busy year, still going since 2022.
You just mentioned the Mike Cullen lads, and they just came up short against Glen in the end in that All-Ireland semi-final. But talk to us about that journey. Like, what was it like to be involved?
It's been an amazing journey. I kind of first got involved back in 2017. I kind of finished up playing myself and got involved with Don. I wasn't there in 2020 because it was a COVID year, and obviously with the Galway thing, and didn't know what way it was going to end up, so I just didn't get involved in 2020. So I felt like I missed out, but I was so happy for them because they won, and knowing the guys, I was delighted for them. But this year, they were a team on a mission. They were it's a very self-driven environment. Like it's a great team to be involved in. Like the players are just really so motivated, so driven, as are the management as well. It's a great collective effort from everyone involved, really, and they just really they really bought into the whole idea of winning a county title and going as far as they could, and they really wanted to test themselves every night down in training. They were driving it on, really pushing themselves off the pitch, on the pitch. They're a very tight group, to be fair. I only literally recently moved out here to Mike Cullen the last year or two. And just knowing the guys, like you don't see one without the other. They're all kind of a very tight group. So you can see it on the pitch as well when they're up against it. They back themselves. They really do, as a group, they really do tough it out. Like they're a great bunch of lads, really. And it was just an amazing journey just to get over the line, especially against Strokestown. That was a tough one. Westport kind of was a great performance. Peter obviously been out, big loss. But huge performance blow at McHale Park. They blew the doors off there that day and just really gave a performance of a lifetime. Then brought back down to earth against Strokestown. Tough team to break down. They really made it hard for us. They were a really well organised team, good side, got over the line, and then Tour Strand, we kind of did the job that day. And then obviously the semi-final against Glen. You don't know where you're at when you're playing teams like that, but I thought we gave a really good account of ourselves. And we're unlucky to come up short. We had chances. Like we definitely had chances to kind of, at the very least, I thought, bring it to extra time, if not maybe sneak it. They're probably the better team on the day, but good teams like Mike Cullen, you're never out of a game, I think, really. Like top sides, you're never out of a game. You're never kind of you're never, with the kind of group they'll never say die. They'll keep going to 60 plus minutes.
Just there on, like, there was a couple of opportunities in that game later on. Do they still kind of live with the group, or kind of what was said after? Like, because it definitely felt like there was opportunities, as you're mentioning there, to get back into that game.
Yeah, there was, and the more than you see the final, Glen, had 2 goal chances, and they, that they didn't take. I'm sure it sits with the guys. I'm not going to be asking them how they feel after it. I'm not going to poke the bear. I'm going to leave them alone. But yeah, I'm sure, because they hold themselves to such a high standard. Any of them that missed a shot, like any of the guys that have missed chances during the game, 9.9 times out of 10, they're going to back themselves to score. And they expect to score them, and they expect to nail the chances when they get them. But that's sport. You miss them, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because it's when you go up the levels into a semi-final, it's more costly because you have to take those chances. But I'd say they're frustrated and annoyed over it, of course, there, because they want the pressure. They want to be in those situations to take those shots, and when it doesn't come off, yeah, they are definitely, I'm sure, disappointed. But yeah, I won't be asking them anyway. I'll let them sit on that themselves, but I'm sure it does. Yeah,
9 lads now in the county panel. It's some going.
Yeah, huge, massive representation, really. But I suppose if you go back through the Galway minor teams from 18, 19, 20, under 20 teams from 20, 21, 22, there's kind of been 2 or 3 every year, really. We have Daniel, like Paul Kelly played, James McLaughlin, Paul Kelly. These guys, they've all been involved at minor and under 20 the last few years. Sean Kelly, you go back to the 2017 team that got to the grand final against Dublin, you had Peter Cook and Sean Kelly and Desi. So that brings you up to 7 players. Then Neil McCahey has been a real bolter from the club scene. He's been an excellent defender. And he kind of came in with NUIG and had a couple of very strong years there. So he's added into it as well, and you've James McLaughlin there as well. He's only 19 years of age, another serious prospect. And, I'm sure Owen Kelly then has come into it. He's come back from America, had 3 great years with the club. Again, really strong year with NUIG. So he's comfortable at that level. Like he's able to play. He's a really, really good athlete, really, really good footballer, works at his game really, really hard, So, I mean, they've kind of, it's just, 9 is a lot, but each one of them, you can make a case for them all. They deserve their spot there. They're not there out of any other reason than they deserve it, and they've really, really worked hard at their game the last number of years. And you can track these guys all along. As I said, like Neil, probably a bit of a bolter, got in with NUIG, and he's really cemented himself from Galway. He looks very comfortable. He looked comfortable again yesterday. He's man marking in the full back line. Owen as well kind of came back home from America, hadn't played in a few years, and just really has taken to it like a duck to water. Excellent with the college, year on year has been excellent with NUI. He was excellent again this year, excellent with the club. So he's kind of getting his chance now. So yeah, they deserve it. They deserve it, but they're worth their place in there anyway, definitely, yeah, on what I've seen.
Sean Oak, how do you assess that Galway Roscommon game yesterday?
Well, it was disappointing. We were 3 points up, I think, maybe halfway through the second half. The game, it suggested that it was, we'd say, petering out, but then we'd say Roscommon had an injection of subs that they brought on that, I think made all the difference between assisting, and I think in total maybe whatever subs they brought on scored maybe 3 or 4 points in that last 10-15 minutes. I suppose it has been a problem for Galway, closing out games, second half performances. I mean, even last summer in the championship, I think, the very first game against Mayo, we were in the same position and just seemed to see the finish line before it's actually there. So I'd say Paor is, obviously disappointed that, that we had the finish that we had yesterday. But then to compound things then, Damien Comer's injury. I'd go so far as to say that if he's out for the season, that whatever chance, and look at, I would have put us in a bracket of 3 or 4 teams that would have had or have a chance of would say claiming the big prize. But if he's gone, I mean, I think you could nearly kiss it goodbye, to be honest. Maybe that's a bit over dramatizing things, and we haven't seen the results of his scan hasn't happened yet, but It just looked
Yeah,
bad yesterday. Sorry?
Are you fearing the worst of this injury? Like,
I would definitely think so, yeah. I was at the game yesterday and I was, close enough to where it happened. It was one of those long balls in that Damien is very good at, sometimes flicking over the bar or, punching into the net. So then I think there was 3 or 4 of them that went up for the ball. It broke out. Everybody followed the flight of the ball. But then we kind of noticed that he was down on the ground, it's kind of, it seems to be a graveyard, that kind of square in Pearse Stadium. I remember being at a match, Galway against Kerry in the National League. I'd say it's about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And it was the same square that Michael Meehan had his original injury that kind of, if you like, I suppose, cut short his inter-county career. So, and yeah, and he was in an awful lot of pain. And look, I would fear the worst, to be honest. So like if you add that to, we'd say, the display yesterday, as in, well, more so the result, the display, okay, we were poor enough at finishing the game out, but I thought defensively, we only conceded 9 points, which, that's a plus. I think as well, Paddy mentioned it there, I think Owen Kelly and Neil Mulcahy in the last 2 games, they've been a plus. I mean, everybody, talking about, and rightly so, Liam Silk gone for the year and Kieran Malloy more or less gone for the year, right? 2 big losses. But the 2 lads have fitted seamlessly in. I think I was talking to you, Paul, before about Owen Kelly. For a guy that didn't play any football, right? I doubt he even played underage for Mike Cullen before he went off to America on his basketball scholarship. I think I said this to you before. He has been, I think, a revelation in that the way he plays. He's really fitted in. The only thing I would say, if he has, well, everybody has weaknesses in their game. He's not very comfortable at kicking the ball, right? I don't think he kicked the ball yesterday at all. There was one play in the first half and there was a score on from bread and butter, but he didn't back himself. He's always looking for the out hand pass, which is fair enough. But I suppose, if one was to give him advice, get the football out down to there's a nice handball alley down there in Mike Cullen, and kick it up against the wall there a few times. But look at, he's been superb. It's, looking at the league table this morning, like Galway could easily have 4 points in the bag. I think the 1 point doesn't really reflect, how they've played in the last 2 games. But if they win their next match, it mightn't look too bad. So, yeah, disappointing result yesterday, but, a few kind of green shoots in terms of new players discovered. And let's hope that Damien's scan is positive.
Just on that, Paddy, we referenced Owen Kelly, Neil Mulcahy. They were obviously in the full back line yesterday with Jack Lynn. They did move Sean Kelly out of the half back line. They probably are at a bit of a conundrum there where who they're actually going to play full back. But along with Dylan McHugh and John Daly as well, the one thing you would say is Galway seem to have a settled, I suppose, back 6 now when you consider Liam Silk and Kieran Malloy gone. Like you wouldn't be surprised to see this 6 defenders be here for the year.
No, definitely not. I think Sean said it there, they fitted in seamlessly in the full back line. Neil and Owen, they're big, they're strong, they're physical, they're quick. So Anthony come across at senior county level is going to be likewise big, strong, fast. They can match that. For me, with Jack Lynn as well, obviously super year last year, excellent player, tigerish, really good defender. It frees up Sean. I think that's the biggest thing, the biggest plus for me that these 2 guys are coming in, is that they play in the full back line and it frees up Sean Kelly. Sean Kelly is vital for Galway going forward. He's been playing full back. He's been doing a great job there trying to get forward. But if we can play Sean Kelly at 5 or 7 or anywhere up the field, really, we're laughing, because I think he's able to defend, but he can also transition really quick. He's excellent at just turning up in these positions where he can get a goal. You've seen it against Mayo. He just turned up out of nowhere, got a goal. Same again Thursday or last Tuesday night in the Sigerson. He came on half back. He wins the ball out to 45, goes in, gets a score. He also hit the post as well. So the further away from the full back line you can play Sean, the better it is for Galway, really, because I think he just adds so much going forward. Excellent in defence as well, obviously, but he just adds that other dimension that he's, Sean Hogue is on this, is here with us, like no better man that knows going forward from 7 and getting a few scores. Like, that's what you want. You need to have that lift off and that drive from, your half back line. Meehan did it then later on. I think Sean could be that player for us, like, really do. I think it's imperative that we have him out of the full back line, really. That's just my opinion, but that's where I'd be looking to have him anyway, as far away from there as possible.
Sean Hogue is a wing back. Like, do you think that's the position for Sean Kelly?
Oh yeah, no, I'd agree with Paddy there. He's you could see him yesterday. He's always scanning, looking to see where the gap is. Now it's more difficult nowadays, to spot the gap than we'd say 20 years ago when I was playing. Like, often there'd just be acres of space in front of you, whereas now you have to, pick your moment. Like, it wasn't easy yesterday. Roscommon had 2 extra defenders all the time, and often, they had their whole team back behind the 45. So it was quite difficult to find some gaps. And he did make a couple of bursts, but he was swallowed up. But yeah, he's very effective. But I think, the one of his best attributes is just he's kind of a warrior, really. He just never gives up. You could see it yesterday, like, just mad to try and win the game. I was watching the Sigerson game on YouTube the last night. I mean, he came on for, I think, the last 15 minutes, and you could see the team, the upturn in the team. They just, he brings an energy and a drive to the whole thing. But yeah, look, it's something that Galway didn't really have last year. He did make a couple of forays, all right. But if he was a permanent fixture out around the middle third, that would be an added sort of advantage that Galway would have. He did play, if memory serves me, he played midfield in the Division 2 final last year against Roscommon. Now, I think, he had a quieter game, I think, that day. I think that was the day Paul Conroy scored 6 or 7 from play. But you see, I suppose when he's playing full back, it's possibly easier for him to sneak up the field. Whereas if he's out in the middle third, he's kind of possibly more a marked man as well, because everybody knows that this is what he does. But certainly, he's, if Galway are going to do anything this year, like, he has a massive role to play, and with what he does.
Just there, we did reference Damien Comer's injury early on, Paddy. Galway seemed to maybe getting into a bit of a flow, but like, when Comer goes down for that long, I'd say he was nearly down for 9 to 10 minutes with the injury. The stretcher comes on, they carry him off the pitch. Like, it definitely did affect the performance in somewhat.
Yeah, I was just listening to Paor after the game on the league on Sunday, and again on another media outlet there. He said, like, it definitely deflated the players, and he referenced that, Damo's a huge leader for Galway, number 1. Number 2, he's one of our best players, and number 3, he's very popular lad in the dressing room. Like, he's very much liked in the dressing room, and the guys have great time for him. So I suppose them going down, seeing him in pain, as Sean Oak said about Sean Kelly, a warrior. Damo's a bit of a warrior too, So seeing him go down injured 9-10 minutes, it is not the wind out of anyone's sail, really. Like, as you said there, Paul, they were in a bit of a flow, things were moving well, and he goes down, and it just killed the momentum, And there are hard things to regain again, especially with an injury like that. It's very, very hard for teams to kind of get back to the pitch of it again, you know, especially when it's one of your main leaders, especially with Rob and Shane out. It's a big blow for Galway at you know, at that stage. Like, so yeah, very, very, very hard to kind of get your momentum back again when you have a big lull like that in the game, for sure.
Well, we definitely will touch on if this injury is serious, how much of a significant blow could be with Robert Finnerty out as well later on in the show. But Sean, just on that first half, like, I don't think you can get away from it really. It was sideways, it was lateral, there was numbers back. Both teams, there probably wasn't as much hard running as you see when there's a blanket defence like that. And it was cagey. Both teams kind of really beating each other out.
Yeah, it was. And you know, you could sense the crowd, you know, after 30 minutes, there was a lot of sighs in the crowd. Like, there was very little. I don't think, like, I'd say I could count on one hand the amount of 30-meter kick passes into a forward. I don't think there was even 5. So it wasn't a very exciting game, right? But I think, you see, I'm not, Paddy's involved in modern day management, but my read of it is that players are told that possession is king. So you don't want to give away the ball. So therefore you don't take, you know, you don't kick past the ball if it's a 50-50 ball, right? That would be one of the reasons why, you know, a kind of a lateral hand pass is more, you know, that's the option that the player takes a lot quicker than kicking it in. But then the second thing is this, and no, I was watching the game and there was guys, let's say Galway were attacking, right, and they were passing the ball over and back. I would have felt that there was shots on, as in, you know, a player might have been 30, 35 meters out and they had a 2-3 second window of opportunity to take a shot. Now, you know, I've often heard of the 80%ers, you know, don't take it unless you've an 80% or more chance of scoring. Like, but I'm kind of looking at it and I'm saying, you know, why don't you take it on? Why don't you shoot? Like, the only guy that I think does that, you know, on a consistent basis for Galway is Killian McDaid. You know, he scored a great point against Mayo. I think he scored a point yesterday anyways, at least one from play, but there was other guys getting into positions and just, you know, I'd like them to be a bit more ambitious. But look at, you know, I can see why that's probably the instructions. Don't, because you're giving away possession if the ball goes wide. You know, and you're going to have to spend the next, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes trying to get possession back. So I can understand in some ways, but yeah, look, it was a very cagey game. Davy Burke had 2 extra defenders back at all times, so it was difficult to break it down. And Galway were doing the, you know, side to side, you know, occupying, if you like, the 3 channels, you know, trying to find a gap someplace. But just the wee injection of pace, the maybe the little jink that Robert Finnerty adds to the thing where he, you know, would create a scoring opportunity, that was missed yesterday. And I suppose as well, I mean, you know, we're all talking about Damien Comer and Robert Finnerty, and Shane Welch obviously, but Patrick Kelly wasn't there yesterday either, and he started the All-Ireland final, and, you know, he's a player that you know, he's learning his trade, if you like, and you know, he could have made a difference yesterday as well. So, like, we were missing, I suppose, you know, you can't say that Damien, he played the first 5-6 minutes, but you know, we were missing 4 of our starting 6 up front. So you know, maybe if they were all playing, we might have you know, opened up more gaps, that type of thing. But you know, that's just the way the game has gone, you know.
Just with that, Paddy, Roscommon, you could see the tactic yesterday. It was bring most of the players back. When they turn it over, they commit more bodies forward and everyone goes. Do you think Galway maybe played into that system a bit too much? Like, possession is obviously key, but there could have been stages where probably the kick pass was on more. Like Sean mentions there, Killian McDaid was willing to kick it, Paul Shaughnessy was kicking it, but like just to get up that pitch a bit quicker and not let Roscommon set.
Yeah, Sean alluded to there, Davy Burke had them playing a double sweeper. It's very, very hard to, kick the ball away. And as Sean, you said there as well, it's the modern day thing is hold on to the ball. I suppose it is that bit harder to kick when you have a double sweeper, and it's, at one stage there are 15 men behind the ball outside the 45. It's very, very hard to kind of, kick against that. I think Galway traditionally always and ever want to kick the ball at every level. Every Galway team you see, if they can, will kick the ball. But again, it's very, very hard to kind of, if you're kicking a ball in there where there's maybe Damo's in there with, say, Owen Finnerty, and there's 6 defenders around, chances are the ball, unless it's very favourable to the forward, is going to stick. And then if it does stick, you could have 6 defenders around too. You know what I mean? So it's very, very hard to break that down. But yeah, I personally, I'd love to see Galway kick the ball more. Obviously, I think Paor wants them to kick the ball more. I think that's what Galway would do. That's what we want to see our team doing, and that's what the management want, is they want to see them kicking. But it's very, very hard yesterday to play against a team who literally are set on 50 men behind the ball, at the very least 2 extra sweepers. And, you could tell from the crowd yesterday as well, they were frustrated that we weren't kicking the ball in. And it was, you could hear a lot of groans, as Sean said already, but unfortunately you can't, if you do kick the ball in and it's recycled and they break, it's, it looks even worse again then, you know what I mean? It's kind of trying to find the balance of minding the ball, but knowing when to kind of kick, but knowing when to inject the pace. Sean was saying there again about Rob Finnerty, he makes a jink, it stands up the defender for that split second, and you get a runner coming in, then be it Matthew Tierney or a Peter Cook, and they can finish from distance. And maybe, that was something that Galway could have done yesterday, is, if you have, 50 men inside the 45, trying to get those shots off the distance if we could. We have lads who can kick the ball from long range, Killian McDaid, Peter Cook, Matthew Tierney, Paul Shaughnessy, the 4 of those, they're well, 45, 50 yards as well within their range, so it's about trying to figure out other ways of kind of getting around what's in front of you as well, and that's kind of the big test really at that level, is that when you are playing teams that have 50 men behind the ball, it's not nice to watch. I don't like watching it. I don't think anyone likes watching it, as a spectacle, and that's what sport is. It's a spectacle, but you have to kind of figure out other ways of getting around it. And did Galway figure it out yesterday? Possibly not. Could they do it again if they were out there again today? I'd say they would, yeah, absolutely. I'd be like Sean, if there's a 2-3 second window for a shot, take it. I suppose the only caveat I'd have to say is, in the modern game, is just kill the ball. I think there's nothing worse than taking the shot if it goes short, or if it doesn't go dead. Just kill the ball. And it wouldn't bother me if they had a couple of shots. If they went wide, so be it. I don't think Galway only had I think they had 2 or 3 wides in the whole game yesterday. I don't think they had many wides at all. Yeah. So there you go. You kind of have to take your shot at goal. And I don't think the lads are afraid to, but it's just perhaps yesterday they just didn't take the opportunities when they arose, and I just would I'd be very much in favour of them having a crack at it. We have the talent, we have the players to do it. We have, they have the ability, especially from distance. So that I would personally like to see them, have that, cut at it.
Sean, even some of the opening points for Galway in the first half, Desi Keneally gets 2 frees, but the Matthew Tierney point, it's a great move by Killian McDaid and Sean Kelly. McDaid gets one himself, but before that, Dylan McHugh gets a nice point. Those 3 points from play were great passages of play.
Oh, no, they were, yeah. But I think, I know we've said it 3 or 4 times, but I think when Damien Comer got injured and went off, the wind was taken from our sails a small bit. It's actually interesting, Dylan McHugh is a guy, we'll say, last year in the championship, I wouldn't think he contributed much in terms of scoring. So it was nice to see him yesterday because he's well able to kick the ball to get his score. Matthew Tierney, yeah, it was a nice move. I think the ball was played back out to him. He popped it over with his left, I think. He's a guy that we're still waiting to see the very best of him. I mean, Paddy knows that at Sigerson level, he's superb. I think he got Player of the Week there 2 weeks ago in Sigerson matches. But just, with Galway, he still has to find that fifth gear. I think in the second half, and it's not like I think he's a great player, but we'd say in the second half there yesterday, he had a great chance. He kind of created the opportunity for himself. And again, it was with the left foot. It was into the Connemara end, that goal. And it just crept wide. I think it would have put us, I think it was 8-8 at the time. There was about 2 or 3 minutes left. He'd have put us a point up. We could have held on at that stage. But no, yeah, you're right. I think we were 5-3 up at that stage. We would say after that good passage of maybe 15 minutes in the first half, but just didn't kick on from there. I mean, like 8 points is not, a great return, really. It's not going to win you many games at all. But, it's like I said, it was nice to see Dylan McHugh, add to the scoreboard. And I think if Damien is out for the season, you're going to have to, the players are going to have to take on more responsibility in terms of adding to the score, because obviously Damien does a fair bit of scoring for us. So the likes of Dylan McHugh and even John Daly, I mean, he was up kind of close enough a few times to places where you could have had a shot. Peter Cook yesterday, he didn't, if memory serves me, he didn't score. I might be wrong there now, but he didn't. No, I don't think he even got himself into a position, to have a shot, and that's kind of unusual for him because that's one of his big traits. He's very good at taking those long range shots. But I think I met his father Martin afterwards, and he reckons he was gassed, which is fair enough, because he's coming in at this level. He hasn't played it for a couple of years. And I know obviously he was playing with Mike Cullen, but, county standard would be a bit higher. But, he's a guy now that will, that as the year goes on, will contribute more and more. And I think he can be a very big player for us.
Paddy, nearly most weeks we're having this discussion. Where is Matthew Tierney's best position? You've seen him up close and personal, obviously, with college. For me, I think it'd be great to see him on the edge of the square with the size he has. He's able to win the ball. They did try it yesterday, but it's not something they use that often where they tried to go direct to him. But where do you feel his best position is?
His best position, for me, I'd say centre forward, but I'd be kind of like yourself. I think full forward is definitely something you could get out of him, but you need to play him there for a prolonged period of time. If it's something you want to embed in the team to have him full forward, then throw him in full forward the next day against Tyrone. Keep it going for Donegal. Peter Cook can play centre forward. You have other options there at centre forward. If it's something you want to develop in his game, especially at senior county level, you can't just flitter in, flitter out, or go in and go out for 5-10 minutes. I think they should go for it, especially if Dame was out now for a while. I'd play him between centre forward, full forward, 100%, because I think the closer he is to goal, he's so dangerous. He's very, very skillful. He's a really big man, but he's extremely skillful for a man his size. He knows where the posts are. He's a scorer. He can go. He's well able to score goals. So it'd be great to see him in there full forward. I think he'd do a great job in there. Closer to goal, he's very, very dangerous because, as you said already, Paul, his size, he's such a big man. You looked in the All-Ireland final last year, how many advanced marks did Clifford take? Matthew's excellent in the air. He's exceptional in the air, really. He's played wing forward for Galway because he's an option for kick out. He's played midfield, centre forward. Why not full forward? especially to give us something different. And I think just touching on Damo's injury as well, that's one thing that Galway will miss. Damo's kind of played between full forward and centre forward, and he's been an option for kickouts. You know, against Mayo, direct kickouts straight down the middle, he was catching them. You know, he's just offers something different, and that's why he will be such a loss, because he offers that, you know, that option to kind of, he can win ball any which way at all. He can play it out in front, play it in, play it up over his head. He can just win ball no matter what, and that's a big thing for us. Like, is securing possession, and I think Matthew can be like that too. I don't see why he could be played at centre forward and it could be landed down top of him for a kick out, pre-rehearsed move of a kick out, and then see him move into full forward, because he'd cause untold, you know, trouble for anyone. Like, I mean, he's 6'3", 6'4", and as I said, he has the skill set. You look at McShane there for Tyrone, big man in the edge of the square, very hard handle. There's no reason why Matthew can't do it, because he can play football. There's no doubt about that. You know, he's extremely talented. So I'd be inclined to agree with you. I think the edge of the square could be a position for him, definitely.
Just after half time then, Sean Oak, on 41 minutes we went 7-3 up. But I think one thing that was noticeable to me there anyways was Killian McDaid's form. Like, he really hasn't let off after last year at all. Like, you could really tell yesterday he was one of the massive positives for Galway.
Yeah, he's I was kind of a bit worried about I think he picked up an injury, his knee injury, maybe the week leading into the Mayo match, and he has that big bandage on. He had it on last weekend and yesterday. But no, he's a real leader. He's well able to take his score, and he's got a great engine. I mean, this was the guy that went to I think it was Carlton in Australia for a year. I mean, he was handpicked to go over there. And you know, if you're going over there, you're well regarded. So, you know, everybody remembers the underage career that he had. I think he was man of the match in an under-21 All-Ireland final, or under-20 against Dublin 4 or 5 years ago. So it's great to see him develop into, we'd say, the player that he is. And I think as well, now I can't say I know many of the Galway players too well, and I don't know Killian too well either, but I've spoken to him a few times, and he just seems, he's a very level-headed fella. His head is screwed on, but he has a ruthless streak as well. You know, he really wants to win. He's very competitive. So I think his role now, where he plays in the middle of the park, and you know, he does these kind of, you know, he spots the gaps, he goes, you know, he's well able to take a score. You know, I think he's one of Galway's most important players. And his mentality as well. I mean, to score 4 points in an All-Ireland final from midfield, I mean, that's just outrageous altogether. Yeah, like, he played well yesterday. He can play better, but certainly, like, he's a guy now that will lead against Tyrone in 2 weeks' time in Tuam. I mean, that's I suppose a must-win game, because if we win that, we're kind of, you know, we're close enough to the top of the table. If we don't win it, we are possibly in trouble, right? And I know from knowing Paor that, you know, Tuam Stadium is the you know, that's his favourite stadium of all, and you know, he really want Galway to win there. The home of football, he calls it. But anyways, that's discussion for another day. But no, look at Killian McDaid, superb player, and like, you know, he's one of my favourite players anyways on the Galway team.
It's really one of the big positives, I suppose, to take out of yesterday, Paddy.
Killian's performance, yeah. He's like, as Sean had touched on it there, he's a serious leader. He went away to Carlton, came back, and he's, you know, as you said already, 4 points in an Ireland final from midfield is, you know, it's Jack O'Shea stuff. Like, it's real, you know, legendary stuff to be doing that. But he's always had that in him. You know, he's a super athlete, and he's well able to play football. I was at his Galway debut. I think it was an FBG League game in Kiltoom against Roscommon. He was thrown in wing forward when Kevin was over Galway. He kicked 2 points, looked really comfortable. I suppose the biggest knock was when he came back, he had a couple of injuries. He never got the momentum to kind of, get himself 100% fit and embedded in with the team. And I think last year, you've seen he'd a full year, no real injuries, and he's really blossomed into a top-class inter-county midfielder now. I mean, he's a huge engine. He's big, he's strong. He can kick a score. Like, we remember that score, the outside of the boot last year. He got an outrageous strike. And, he has that ruthless streak in him, which you need. You have to at that level. You can't, inter-county football is no place for anyone that's going to back from Anthem, but he definitely has it. Like, he's definitely one of the main guys now, the likes of himself, Sean Kelly, Damo, Shane. They're the kind of real, leaders in the squad now. But he's really become he's fulfilling his potential, and he has another bit to go on him as well too, which is the scary thing. I think he can be a real top class performer for Galway for the next 5 or 6 years for sure.
Yeah, a huge positive to take out yesterday with his performance, and just again thank you to our sponsor Steede Motor Group, Claregalway. In that game, Sean Og, 8-5 up, 7-3 up, is that the biggest frustration? Like, the way the inter-county game is, 4 points, 3 points, like that seems like a sizable lead, just with, I suppose, the way that game was being played yesterday. But I think Paor referenced it in his interview after the game. Turnovers in the final third for Galway when they're attacking were the killer.
Yeah, there was a lot of that yesterday. We were in promising positions and just kind of ran into cul-de-sacs. And that feeds the opposition's, it gives them belief. I think I said it earlier, the subs that Roscommon brought on made all the difference.
Ben O'Carroll fella in corner forward, the jig.
Yeah, like he was, you're looking at him and you're saying, should he not be playing on the Roscommon minor team? But, hugely effective. And, I suppose at that stage of the game, the Galway legs are tiring. That's the type of player you want to bring on. And we'd say, I think possibly tiredness had a small bit to do with it. They were able to punch holes in the Galway rear guard then, after turning Galway over in their own third. But, it is something that we'll have to get better at, closing out games. I mean, you would think 7-3 up, that you just sit back and, allow them to come on you and then counter-attack. We didn't seem to do that. But yeah, look at it. It'll be very disappointing for Paor from that point of view. And like I said, on top of, we'll say, the draw down in Mayo, which should have been, a victory. We could have been sitting on 4 points this morning and everything is grand and rosy in the garden. I mean, look at, like, maybe at the, because those two results have happened the way they've happened, there's a lot of, I suppose, holding up a mirror to your panel, and everybody now is kind of, I suppose, where do we get better? How do we improve this? Whereas if we'd won the 2 games, maybe there wouldn't be as much introspection kind of from the lads, like. But certainly, the match against Tyrone is must win. They had a victory yesterday against Donegal. They have their own problems, like, and we'd say the last time they came to Tuam, Galway gave them an absolute, would say, a trouncing. I think that was the day Cormac or McShane, he got the bad ankle injury that day. So that game now is an opportunity for us to kind of finish out games, play for the 70 minutes, maybe be a bit more adventurous in terms of introducing it. And I know it's difficult to do it, but a bit more kick passing to the equation, and maybe take on the half opportunities, even though I know you don't want to give away possession or the ball might drop short, but maybe have I won't call it a pot shot, like, but kind of go at them a bit more, like, But certainly, it's something to work on to play for the 70 minutes.
Just Roscommon's final score, Paddy. It was late on in the game. They kind of forced Galway into that sideline, and it was almost like a turnover when they got that ball back. Like, it just, you could see that kind of energy. Roscommon got energy, and that kind of moment just sucked the life out of Galway.
Yeah, well, you see teams like that when they play so many behind the ball, their whole mantra, their whole thing, their ethos is turnovers, work rate, turnovers, and they celebrate a turnover. Turnover is like a score, and it energizes them, because that's probably been indoctrinating them for the last 3-4 months with Davy Burke and his backroom team there, that it's turnover, transition. You could hear him talking about the final score there. He was saying, yeah, he's a great transition player. Like, this is what they live off, is numbers around the ball carrier, turn it over. That's a big thing. You could see them on the line themselves. They were really pumped up on the line. They get energy off it, carrying the ball forward, and it was a momentum shift. You could see it yourself. You could see the crowd could probably sense it. You can see that. There's times in games when you see a turnover and a play like that, and you can just see the momentum just literally shifting. Roscommon came down the field, and if you're a Galway supporter, you're going to say there's only one outcome here. It's going to be a score, and lo and behold, he drops it over the crossbar. But they really lived off turnovers, and it really energized them, and that's their whole mantra, I'd say, from watching on anyway, and seeing teams that Davy Burke has coached. I would say he's involved with Maynooth. I came across him a couple of times. It was, the big thing is numbers around the ball, the turnover, and then the quick transition, and they live off that. It's huge for them. They see it, they're getting that turnover there late on, that's a score, and then getting it forward and scoring as well is a huge plus. But they really set their stall out with that. That's massive for them, is getting them turnovers. That's what they live off.
The next 3 games are obviously crucial. Galway just, I think it's in 7th at the moment on a point. Monaghan winless, just below them on 0 points. But Tyrone, Monaghan and Donegal. Monaghan have lost their 2 opening games. Tyrone have won 1 and lost 1. Same with Donegal. Like, these feel like 3 crucial games now, with 3 games that Galway are probably well capable of getting results. Like Sean, we talked there about potential injuries. Probably for these next 3 games, you're definitely going to be without Robert Finnerty and Damien Comer. You'd expect probably now that we're probably going to see Shane Walsh back sooner than we expected. Patrick Kelly is still out with a back injury, so unsure whether he'll be back or not. But like, even Tom O'Callaghan there was a player who was playing well in the pre-season competition before he got injured in the Sigerson Cup.
Yeah, well, the first thing you said there, like the next 3 games are, they're vital. I mean, there's going to be very little, I would think, in any of the 3 games. Because all teams in Division 1 are competitive, very competitive. I mean, like, I suppose if you looked at the odds before the league started, Roscommon would probably be one of the favourites to go down. And look at them now after 2 rounds, sitting pretty at the top of the table. So, I would think the first thing you got to look at is you got to be safe. So to be safe, I'm thinking 5-6 points. So that's Galway will have to win 2 games from someplace. But then if you look back at the history, we'll say, okay, we beat Tyrone fairly well in Tuam the last time we played them. I would expect us to, even with all those fellas missing, we'll have 2 weeks to kind of take stock. I would expect us to put in a good performance, and I'd be backing us to beat Tyrone. Monaghan are they're the match we played against them up in Clonus, I think it was 2 years ago in the league, where they beat us in extra time and we got relegated to Division 2. So that's not going to be easy. And then obviously Donegal, a new manager. Okay, they had a great result against Kerry. Things didn't go so well for them yesterday, but that'll be another battle royale. So, but I think the 2 weeks, it has come at a good time for us. none of those injuries, I don't think, will clear up in time for certainly Tyrone. You mentioned Tomo there. I mean, I don't know what the state of his injury is, whether, I don't know if it's an ankle, or I did hear, well, rumors are terrible, like, but maybe it's the ACL, I'm not sure. But like, he was a guy that I would have expected to, make a real charge to try and get on the Galway team as a corner forward, like, or he's a guy that knows, he has a real kind of a sense of where the goal is, and he often gets he often gets very important goals. He just seems to be the right man in the right place, and he's got a great boot on him. So he's a loss as well, and he's somebody that really we haven't, I suppose, touched on at all. So when you think about it, like, there's a lot of fellas out injured, but even with that, I would expect us to pick up, we'll say, the points necessary to stay up in Division 1, because nobody wants to go down to Division 2, considering the ramifications of playing in Division 2 and Sam Maguire and all that. But there'll be tough games, but I'd expect us to bounce back after yesterday.
Just on Thomas' injury, Paddy, you would have seen it. Do you know what the injury is?
It's his ankle anyway. It's definitely, I'd be shocked if it's his ACL.
Okay.
He got hurt against UCD. He scored a goal, actually. He finished the ball to the net. I think the keeper, that old school keeper trick of going with the bottom of the boot into the ankle. So yeah, he played on to half time, but yeah, so he was in a boot then a few days after. Yeah, so I'd say it's just damage to the ankle. So yeah, it's unfortunate he was out for us. Obviously, the last night against UL, we really missed him with NUIG. Massively important player for us, And as you said, Sean, like, he scored goals in the FPD against Mayo. He scored goals for NUIG in most of the games as well, against Maynooth, against UCD. So he was on really, really good form too. He was scoring well, and he does know where the goals are. He sniffs out danger. So yeah, he's a big loss. But hopefully he'll be back soon enough. I wouldn't be able to put a time in it for you, but hopefully he'll be back soon enough. And we'll need him back, especially if Rob is 4 to 6 weeks. Damo unknown. Patrick Kelly could be 2 or 3 weeks, especially with the back, So yeah, we could do it. We could do it him back for sure.
That's it, Paddy, isn't it? Like, with all these inside forwards out, like it can't be too harsh on Galway either, because like most counties there, like if they're missing, I suppose their inside forwards ultimately will start.
100%. Like Shane and Damien, Rob, like they're the 3 main forwards for Galway all year. It's very hard to replace lads of that quality, proven, they're proven inter-county footballers at this stage, it's very hard. Kind of touching back on a previous point as well, if Galway had won yesterday, they're on 3 points, everything's fine. They should have beaten Mayo, should have closed the game out better. Should they have won yesterday? Possibly, yeah, they should have won. They didn't see it out, from certainly they were at a stage of the game where they were in control and didn't see it out. So I mean, if they had the 4 points, things are different. So I wouldn't change entirely what Galway were doing. So by that token, like, you're going to have Owen Finnerty played yesterday, played reasonably well. He's getting up to speed. He'll be an important player now. He's super intelligent footballer, always able to find the ball, always able to make the ball stick. He's very physical. Ian Burke has given another, his second coming at inter-county level. So he's back in there again. We know what he brings. Very intelligent. He's a former All-Star. He's won, Club All-Irelands. So, we're lucky we have the likes of Ian Burke. We're lucky we have Owen Finnerty. Desi's obviously there. He'll nail his frees. He'll chip in with scores from play. So we are very lucky that while we're missing these guys, we are missing them. But we're very lucky we have an Owen Finnerty. We have Desi. We have Ian Burke. Genuine inside guys who are a threat. And then you have Owen Gallagher as well on the bench, who can make an impact as well. So while we are down them guys, it's a chance to kind of add a bit of depth to the panel too. And we need to add depth definitely at this stage. Like, you have to have guys who can come in if there is an injury crisis like this.
Yeah, especially Sean, when you consider the point of development depth in this squad, a lot of people will reference back to that All-Ireland final that Kerry probably got more of a kick off their bench. But when you consider, I suppose, later on in the year that you're going to have these kind of Super 16s and you're going to have your provincial championships, like if Galway want to get back to where they were, like it's a lot more games this time round, and a panel is definitely something you're going to need.
Oh yeah, like that was one of the I suppose talking points after last year, that our bench didn't have much of an impact at any particular point. I mean, we saw in the All Ireland final. Now I know it's going over old ground, but it will say Robert Finnerty was taken off after 50 whatever minutes. And I know it's easy in hindsight, but the old Mickey Hart, Peter Canavan trick, take him off, put him back on. Like, Robert could have been somebody that when the game was a bit loose in the last 5 minutes, he could have made a difference. But like, you're right. You do need strength and depth. And, this is an opportunity now for these fellas, the likes of Ian Burke to kind of feel his way back in, for Owen Finnerty to develop his game. I mean, yesterday was one of the few starts. I think he played last year in the championship against Leitrim, but was one of the few starts that he's made for Galway. And like Paddy, I was watching him. He is a good player. He is physical. He won a fair percentage of ball out in front. Now, there were hand passes into him rather than long kick passes, but he's always looking up. He's always trying to give off the proper hand pass. So he's a guy that will get his opportunity now over the next 3 or 4 weeks. So it is an opportunity to we'll say strengthen our bench, because like you said, assuming we get into, we'll say, the last 12, or you're going to need a strong bench. And we'll say, because the season is so condensed, injuries years ago, you mightn't even miss a game because there'd be 4 or 5 weeks between every game. But now, I don't know, I think I read a stat there that over the next 6 weekends, that there's matches on 21 weekends or something like that. So, you are going to need your bench, because any injury puts somebody out of matches. So, it's given Padraig an opportunity to do that. Despite us being, I suppose, a bit disappointed with the result yesterday, at least we're getting sort of minutes into guys like these.
Absolutely, and it's Tyrone next up for Galway Sunday week in Tune Stadium. A huge game to look forward to. But that's all we have time for on our show for today. This podcast is available on all podcast platforms. But a massive thank you to Paddy Moran and Sean for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, Paul.